Charlotte was the 50th out of 50 cities as far as not having economic mobility. But when you look at the heat maps of that data, we look just as poor in economic mobility as Charlotte did. So we said, okay, let's partner and understand what Charlotte's doing, drill it down to the level of what we can do, and now track that over time. From all of that work, we worked with the Urban Institute. We worked with the Regional Growth Initiative out of the Brookings Institute with 8 other communities around the country. And that again validated that we were on the right path, but also gave us some metrics to understand what mobility looks like. So regional visioning now has a deeper dive on affordable housing, a deeper dive on workforce development, and a deeper dive on what happens with health delivery and equity. And that's the 3 we've kind of worked on so far, with a couple more coming later.
This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community.
Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and here on Chamber Chat, I introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Today's guest is a dynamic leader with a deep commitment to community and economic development. Brian Anderson is the president and CEO of Chamber RVA, the regional chamber of commerce serving Greater Richmond, Virginia. A native of Florence, South Carolina, Brian is a proud graduate of Francis Marion University with a degree in economics. His career journey is nothing short of inspiring, from serving 4 years as a U.S. Army military intelligence officer to nearly 2 decades in the beverage industry with giants like Coca-Cola and Anheuser-Busch, to serving as chairman of the Whitfield County Board of Commissioners in Georgia. Brian transitioned to the chamber world in 2008, leading the Greater Dalton Chamber of Commerce and later the Greater Columbus, Georgia Chamber, before taking the helm at Chamber RVA in 2019. Brian has earned his IOM designation and is a certified chamber executive. He's a recognized leader in regional collaboration and workforce development. Brian currently serves on several key boards shaping the future of Virginia's economy. He brings to this conversation a wealth of insight on business leadership, regional strategy, and the importance of public-private partnerships in driving long-term growth. But let's dive into an engaging and energizing conversation with Brian Anderson. Brian, I'm excited to have you with us today here on Chamber Chat Podcast. I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to all the chamber champions who are out there listening. And if you would, share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little better.
Well, hello, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to have a conversation about, not just our industry, but the things we're doing, because we are very proud of the work we do. But I've been around this long enough to know that our chamber colleagues out in the listening audience, we've all learned from each other. We can all do better at what we do by understanding how each of us have faced different opportunities and challenges. So happy to be with you today. Interesting about me, I think the biggest one that I tell young professionals when I meet with them most of the time is how I got here. And it's interesting more and more that I meet younger leaders coming into the industry. I didn't start the chamber industry until I was 42 years of age, which is a little late, and never knew what a chamber would do, what a chamber does. But I felt that coming out of the beverage industry after 20 years, I wasn't having the impact I wanted to make. I was doing well as far as their goals and their measurements, but I didn't feel like that I made a contribution. And so an opportunity came open through my political life that the Chamber of Commerce in Dalton was in need of a leader. And I, wanted to try something different. I didn't know what that really meant, but I got into it. And here I am 18 years later and found that intersection of business and government to be a really sweet spot for me as an interest, and also a passion for me to help make a difference in not only the life of the communities I've served, but also me feeling that I've validated my skill set and things I can do well and give back.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Being able to want to make a difference and feel like the work you're doing is making an impact, and that's important. And chamber world is a great fit for that.
Sure is.
But thank you for your service as well in the Army. We appreciate
Thank you. That was fun too. And I tell younger people, you can get leadership development anywhere. just get it, whether it be through the military, whether it be through a service organization. You learn leadership by doing it, not by necessarily reading a book. That's helpful, but you got to just
Yeah.
go out there and experience things, make some things happen, make some, fail at times, but then fail up. And so I think
Yeah.
experience can help you in any way you can get it.
Absolutely. Good piece of advice there. So I'd like for you to share with us a little bit more about Chamber RVA, just to give us an idea of the size, staff, budget, scope of work, just to kind of set the stage for our discussion today.
Well, I've been here 6 years, and the organization was in good shape when I took over, which is not always the case in my other two stints. But Richmond is a wonderful region to live in. The chamber serves 9 localities. In Virginia, you don't have cities within counties; they are separate jurisdictions. So we serve one city, the city of Richmond, a town of Ashland, and then 7 counties ranging from Chesterfield, Henrico, Hanover, Colonial Heights, Goochland, Powhatan, and Hanover. And that's a pretty large geography, but they're also contiguous in the sense of not only being connected each other in geography, they all work well together. So we serve that region to be an enabler across the full region. We have 12 staff members, which is not enough. We could use 15 or 16, but 12 is what we have currently. And they are all wonderful teammates that are in the right seats doing the right work. And so I'm fortunate to have a very qualified team. They're not all experienced. There's some of them are young and have just joined us, but they're the right people for the work we've hired them to do. Our budget's about $3.5 million, up from about 3.1 when I took over. One of the areas we had not done well when I got here was membership development. We had been declining, and now for 6 years in a row, we have added net new members and net new revenue. And we're very proud of that. And we serve about 725 members. We don't count locations. So those are actual member companies. So if you have 10 locations or 15, it'd be more.
Counts as one.
But we serve companies. And that's about for a population of about 1.4 million people in this region. We currently are operating, and we just finished our first year of a 3-year strategic plan. We used 2023 and 24 to develop that plan, because before that, we felt we were like a lot of chambers, a little bit not as focused as we needed to be, kind of doing the little bit of everything. Anytime somebody asked to do something, we'd go do it. Had a lot of events, and I'm not sure we were making the impact that we needed to make. So we, as a team and with some volunteer board members and a strategic consultant coach, went through a process and said, how do we become more impactful in the work we do? And we settled on, kind of revamped things we were already doing, but also cut out some things. And we settled on 4 strategic pillars, 2 of which chambers do every day. The first is we connect people. We have events, and we build relationships, we build social capital, and we continue to do that. But those events we have now are very targeted to the work we do and or the audience. We do some small business events. We do some lead investor events. I host a CEO roundtable monthly. Any way we can connect a member where they are. And so that's been a real focus and really paying dividends for us. Advocacy. We are in the middle of the General Assembly, as many states are. And so we are at the State House daily advocating for bills that are pro-business or trying to have bills that aren't. We oppose those. And we also take no action on some. They have nothing to do with the business community. We ignore them. We do the same level of advocacy at the local level. We're always weighing in with our jurisdictions, whether it be zoning and planning, whether it be budgeting and how they're going to do bond referendums. So we try to take an active role with our local governments as well, in the spirit of how does their actions, their policies make the region stronger. Our other 2 are a little bit different, probably from some chambers. The third one would be economic empowerment or economic mobility. And that's looking at our data coming out of COVID. We knew where we were going in, but the numbers post-COVID showed the disparity or the difference between those with means and those without. And so we've been very focused working with the Brookings Institute, the Urban Institute, our regional partners, on understanding what drives economic mobility and how we can help every family and individual move up that ladder to some degree. So we've been very focused on that the last really 5 years, but really intently the last 3. And then the fourth one, again, some chambers have some role in workforce development, but we have taken on that as a primary charge. Again, not to deliver programming. We have plenty of partners that can do that, but we're working with Next Gen Sector Partnerships out of Asheville to really put the business community at the center of the conversation, C-suite executives telling us what's not happening in the development world, workforce development, and what they want to happen or need to happen. And then those of us around the outside of the room, community college, four-year institutions, K-12, Boys and Girls Club, any of those that can have out of school or around school activity, they now are leaning in differently to try to get the outcomes we need. Being able to get young people to go into the paths that we need, construction, IT, health sciences, advanced manufacturing, and then having those programs deliver faster outcomes. You can get a certificate, a degree, all the way up to a 4-year in a faster way. So those 4 pillars
Yeah.
drive us every day. We're very focused. We just had our annual meeting recently where we talked about how we successfully executed those measures in 2025 and how much we have left to do in 2026, but very focused on, again, the work we have to do to make the best difference for our region.
That's fantastic. And that leads in very well to our discussion today, because Stand On is really just as a chamber developing that clear focus, that clear direction to go with your core work and things that you're working towards to really move the ball forward in your community. Like you mentioned, a lot of chambers get involved and get pulled so many different ways because something comes up in the community and everybody wants to volunteer the chamber to take that on, right? So we'll dive in deeper on this topic as soon as we get back from this quick break.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Rose.
And we're the founders of App My Community, a mobile app that can be customized to meet the unique needs of your Chamber of Commerce.
When we started App My Community, we envisioned a tool that would help communities thrive by simplifying communication and enhancing engagement. Chambers of Commerce face unique challenges, and we're here to help you tackle them.
App My Community helps the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce to create an app that keeps tourists informed even when their office is closed. They provide 24/7 access to local business information, which helps support the local economy and community engagement.
In Rocky Mountain House, we helped Rocky Chamber create an app with dynamic itineraries and digital resources for tourists, increasing local business engagement. The app has become an essential tool for the community, promoting events and boosting visibility for local merchants.
Today, we empower more than 200 chambers of commerce, campgrounds, and RV resorts to streamline communication, informing members about events, sharing business updates, and providing a digital hub for the community, all in one convenient app.
When you partner with App My Community, our team works closely with you to create an app that meets your chamber's unique needs. As your community grows, our app evolves with you. We are here to ensure you engage effectively with your members and streamline your operations.
Schedule a demo today at appmycommunity.com.
We can't wait to meet you.
Are you ready to take your organization's funding to the next level? Hi, I'm Clint Neesmith, CEO of Resource Development Group. As a Chamber of Commerce or Economic Development Organization leader, I know you understand the value of working with experts who understand your world. And that's exactly what RDG does best. For over 30 years, RDG has specialized in fundraising for EDOs and chambers. We bring cutting-edge strategies tailored to your organization, whether you're just starting out or gearing up for yet another new funding cycle. Importantly, our firm executives are hands-on from start to finish, from the feasibility study to the successful conclusion of your fundraising campaign. And our team brings deep industry roots and national expertise to every engagement. No matter the size of your community, RDG delivers data-driven, innovative revenue solutions, reinforcing ROI to investors and making sure your vision becomes reality. At RDG, we proudly build organizations that build communities. Visit us today at rdgfundraising.com and let us partner with you, building a stronger future for your organization and the community you are working to grow and develop.
All right, Brian, as we mentioned before the break today, we're talking about creating a clear focus for your chamber. You had mentioned you guys just went through your strategic planning process and kind of the 4 areas, the 4 pillars of work that you guys are focused on that really helps chart your work and makes things a little bit more clear as things are presented to you and what direction you guys need to go in. Talk about the adjustment, from how things were in the past to realigning that focus to make it really work within those 4 pillars?
Well, the first step I think that you should start with, and we did, I can't say I've always had this experience because we get better at it as we do it. Start with your mission, vision, values. We had a good mission statement, a good vision statement. It wasn't as crystal and crisp as we needed it to be, a little bit too broad. So even just refining the words within that, and that took 6 months of not just what was in the mission statement, the value statement, but the words we chose. And then from that, you have a lot more license to, again, narrow down what's really critical to the business community. Now, the other thing I'd say real quickly is, what's your chamber's role in that geography? If you're a local community chamber serving a city or a county or a very defined geography, you may have a different set of expectations and things you need to be focused on. As a regional chamber, we had a little bit more license to what we can and can't do. And we're very upfront about it. Like, I'll give you an example. A florist is probably not going to get much value out of being a chamber member at Chamber RVA. We don't do retail type chamber activities. We are focused on large regional issues that affect cross jurisdictional populations. And we're clear about that. I'm telling, in every Meet the Chamber, we have to talk to prospects. If you're a retail type operation, you're probably not going to be served by us well. So don't join and write a check that you're going to regret. I'd rather you go join the local chamber or some other place you can get the value you need. We serve, but with that, we serve about 60% of our membership are 50 employees or less. So we serve small, medium, large. We have all the corporate partners. We have the Fortune 500 companies, but we serve a good mix of people. So with that, we're focused on professional type companies rather than the retail type. So knowing your mission and who you serve is the first kind of step. And then the third might be what's your member value, member proposition. What does a member want out of the work you do, and how can you deliver that? So we spent, again, a long time defining that and understanding it before we got into what are we going to do. But eventually you get to that point and you've got all that focus. And you say, okay, what's the most critical things we can do as a region, and what's the business community's part of that? Then it's a little easier to get into, okay, these 3 things or 4 things will drive that. I'll tell anybody, having not done it this well in the past, don't have 6, 7, 10 strategies. Get it as close to what you can get down to that's manageable. And again, is also going to give you the biggest impact in how you deliver that. So the 4 I mentioned earlier are what we got our focus on. And right now, again, at least through 18 months or 15 months, those strategies are delivering the tactics we need to execute. And now we can see through some measurements how that's generating the impact we want. So mission statement, member proposition or member value, member benefit leads to how you get the strategy right to go forward.
Yeah. So you have that strategic plan with those 4 pillars that you'd mentioned earlier. You guys also have taken on a regional vision as well. So you want to talk to that and how that aligns with your strategic plan as well?
Yes. And in this case, they're very much aligned because we already had the economic mobility focus within our strategic plan for the chamber. But again, coming out of the pandemic, working with 2 regional partners, which have now grown to 5 total, we knew that the business community had a role with economic mobility, just like the local government has a role. So does philanthropic activity. So all of those focus on how we lift families up and people up. We take that and drill it down and say, how does the business community weigh in there? So how do we have a different employee benefits program? For instance, maybe 401k is not the best thing I need right now. As a 22-year-old, I'd like down payment assistance or help with childcare. So helping our member companies think about mobility difference in a different way so they can help their employees be successful and meet them where they are in their life. So it's taking that regional thought, drilling it down to, again, what individual companies can do, and then us as a business sector weighing in together. So RVA Rising, which we now call it, came out of that 5-year journey of deep diving into data. Dr. Raj Shetty from Harvard has a whole lot of data across the country from a study he did. that basically can tell you kind of what your economic mobility number is. And we found we were pretty low. I mean, Charlotte, in 2013, Charlotte was the 50th out of 50 cities as far as not having economic mobility. We weren't ranked because we weren't big enough, but when you look at the heat maps of that data, we look just as poor in economic mobility as Charlotte did. So we said, okay, let's partner and understand what Charlotte's doing, drill it down to the level of what we can do, and now track that over time. From all of that work, we worked with the Urban Institute. We worked with the Regional Growth Initiative out of the Brookings Institute with 8 other communities around the country. And that again validated that we were on the right path, but also gave us some metrics to understand what mobility looks like. So that regional visioning now has a deeper dive on affordable housing, a deeper dive on workforce development, and a deeper dive on what happens with health delivery, both modality and equity. And that's the 3 we've kind of worked on so far, with a couple more coming later. But that's where all of us are like leaning in now on those 3 priorities in the forefront.
That makes sense. So you mentioned, working with different institutions, like you mentioned the Brookings Institute. So how do these, arrangements come about when you work with these institutes? Is there formal agreements? And I'm asking for those chambers that are listening, I'm asking on their behalf if they want to take on this kind of a focus. How do you get started, and how do you build those relationships to be able to help drive them?
Great question. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's intentionality, sometimes it's luck. In our case, it might have been a little bit of both.
Take either one, yeah.
Because we were already, I guess, in tune with what's happening in that kind of economic mobility space, the conversation. One of my colleagues, Vice President of Strategy, kind of learned about this thing out there, something you could apply for with Brookings. And she said, I think we should do this. I said, of course we should. So we kind of pulled together a team, and we applied to be a part of this Regional Growth Initiative network. There was going to be 8 regions around the country that were picked, and we were selected. And I'll tell you, even from the application, I couldn't have told you how impactful it was going to be at the end. We thought we would just do some sharing, and we would do some learning. We would do some, data work. But we basically had 8 convenings. Each city hosted one over about 8. And we had a very curated 2-day discussion in each city by the Brookings folks, who brought us, in some cases, things happening around the country. And then they'd say, now, how do you react to that? So sometimes it's being in the right place, the right mindset, what you're listening to, and then having the will or willing to take the risk and spend the money in some cases to go be a part of something bigger. That was the first one that really, and then from that, we would have never known we may not have known about next gen sector partnerships, having not done that work. But since we went through it, we learned what somebody else was doing. We said, that really could apply to us and how we're thinking about workforce. And so, one good idea, one good pursuit turned into a second one. Urban was our community foundation, very forward-thinking organization. We're doing some work on their own. How does their work make an impact? They learned about Urban Institute and all the work they've done around the country and all the data they now have from working in those communities. But they were working parallel with Urban while we were working with Brookings, and now we brought all that together under RVA Rising. And they both have been critical to helping us see how we're doing or not doing, how we can measure success and progress. And we've now leaned in more heavily with Urban because their data is much more far reaching. They've got 16 or so measurements of how you can determine if you're economically mobile. And we're using their first 5 pillars right now to keep us focused.
That was my next question with RVA Rising, is what metrics are you looking at to measure success and see that things are moving in the right direction?
And I'd encourage the listeners to go just Google Urban Institute. They've got a whole lot of information on their website that, again, can be applicable anywhere. You don't have to just, be like, because I think, the thing I've learned again after 18 years is every community is different. Every region's different. We have similarities, but you got to know what's happening in your geography and how you can impact that. So they've got 100 different measurements that could be tracked and looked at. We're now taking their wide-ranging set of information from all these communities around the country, and we're picking which ones matter to us. So we've got a whole group at our Plan RVA, which is our local government regional commission type entity. They're taking the lead on how building us a dashboard or a scorecard or whichever term you're happy. They're looking at what measurements fit our region and will determine whether or not we're moving the needle. Quick example. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about our poverty rate. 12% of our citizens live in poverty. Well, if you have a whole lot of people move in that make good money, that number could go down to 9% or 10%, and you haven't affected the people who are already there who live in poverty. So we're looking at data that says, how do we get down very granular into the zip code and the neighborhoods and the families to measure whether or not mobility is happening or not.
It's super helpful, and being able to have that dashboard or scorecard to be able to see how things are moving and growing and developing is going to be super helpful as things progress.
And it's hard. Let me give a caution. It's hard. We've just been trying. I mean, I don't have anything I can hand you right now that says this is how we're doing, because every time we think we've got the 10 or 5 or whatever, something else kind of comes in. So it takes time, but I'm confident we'll get there. But again, we got to get away from measuring things like in education or workforce development. Graduation rate really doesn't mean a whole lot. Yes, you want your students graduating from high school, but what happens after they leave? Are they going into a post-secondary track to get a credential or a certificate or a diploma? Are they going straight to work? And if they're going to work, is it fast food, minimum wage, or is it into something that can build? So you got to be careful, again, how the data can be, one, understood by the group you're talking to, but secondly, is it really measuring something that's important?
Right. So I'm curious, between your strategic plan that's recently rolled out and your regional vision, you guys have your focus. You guys are really honing in on those things that are important to really move the needle in your community. Throughout this process, did you guys have to address any sacred cows, or have other ideas been presented to you since? And how do you respond in saying that this isn't the focus of the chamber at this time?
Often. I mean, I just last night, the last thing I looked at before I left the office was, again, a good partner that we work with regularly said, hey, this group wants to apply for a grant. We want you to be a part of it. We looked at all the information. We didn't see anywhere that it made sense for us to do anything, write a letter of support or not, but to certainly encourage them to do that work. So I think every day it can creep in, because again, you got to be careful when you have the brand power a Chamber of Commerce does, because that can work for you or against you. And
Yeah.
too often it gets you pulled into things you shouldn't be a part of. Now, I also wrote a letter of support last night for one of our local government officials to be recognized as a C-suite executive for the contributions he's made. So I don't mind doing things and lending the Chamber brand, the Chamber horsepower when it's needed. What it can't do is distract our team going down another path that pulls us from the things we're core. I've joked about in my career. I think might have heard at Institute, but I've certainly carried it. Don't do the Christmas parade if you can get out of it. Now, some places the chamber has to do that because it actually is core to who they are and core to that town. But most chambers probably should not be doing the Christmas parade. It's a lot of manpower, a lot of cost, and maybe not going to get you where you need as far as policy and working on the other things you need to work on. But that's the kind of example that we work. I call it, don't let it be the Christmas parade project that pulls you into something you don't need to be a part of.
Yeah.
We had a few, ours remained on the event side. Chamber people also think you got to have something going on every hour of every day. So I'm constantly kind of reminding our team that when you plan your team, a part of the bigger team, plan a breakfast, and then another part of our team plans a lunch or a dinner the same day, that causes some of us have to be, almost half our days committed, and we're just there as participants. So we've been very careful to make sure everybody looks at a master calendar. We try not to have anything of significance the same day and maybe same week. And we cut the number of events, probably 25%, very focused on the ones we have to make each one count rather than let's just have another one.
Yeah.
But then we use that filter when people say, hey, I want you to plan a dinner and do this topic and invite these people. If it doesn't answer the first 2 or 3 questions of our filtering, it doesn't happen. We politely say, you ought to go partner with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And just having those events that you do choose to do, having them fit the areas of focus that you guys are honed in on is so important, because it would be very easy for a member to say, well, I was just at the breakfast, yesterday. Why do I need to go to this thing today? And I mean, they've got their own calendars they're trying to deal with. So the things that they're involved with need to be focused and impactful as well. So
Yes.
being respectful of their time and resources is just as important. So
And another question just for regional chambers or some that may, cross 2 or 3 different jurisdictions. We even go so far, we plan something, we try to go reach out to other partners and say, is anything happening, especially if it's a big signature event or the tourism folks got anything that week or the economic development people. We talk to our partners, so we try to also not contaminate or take away from other people's events because we know what happens when we plan something and find out the city's doing something at the same time.
exactly. Well, as we start to wrap things up here, this has been a great conversation and reminder for all of us listening to hone in that focus and sharpen it. But I always like asking for some sort of a tip or action item for the listener who's wanting to take their organization up to the next level. What would you offer them as they strive to do that?
Couple quick ones. Yeah, the ACCE, which I'm a member of the board for the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, has a ton of data, ton of information. You can go get all kind of reports that they keep as a repository. If you haven't been to IOM as a young or entering leader of a chamber, I highly recommend IOM. It's the best place to get the grounding for our profession. Then if you've been around the industry for a while and you need some personal motivation or maybe to validate that you know what you're doing, CCE is a good process to go through too. You need to be, I think, 5 or 6 years experience in the role and some other criteria. It's on the ACC website. But all 3 of those will help you have the things you can have sort of at hand. Just you can go out and just get those. Another area you can think about is have a mentor or a partner, somebody
Yeah.
that you respect either in your state association, maybe somebody you've met at a convention or a conference. Have somebody you can call when you've got a question you can't ask your chairman. This just happened. I'm nervous about it. My website had something happen, and you don't want the boss to know that you're dealing with something. Have somebody you can call and share that with. All of us have been there. At least if you've been there as long as I have. You've faced a lot of different challenges. Reach out to somebody in the industry. We're only as good as all of us are together because this is a tough job. I met a young lady yesterday that's running a one-person chamber. Her job's 10 times harder than mine because she's expected to be at all the meetings I'm expected to be at and to deliver the same value as I'm expected. But I've got 11 partners on our team that help us do that. So help each other. Each chamber should be talking to each other regularly. We are not competitors. We're collaborators. If we do those kind of things, I think you got a chance to be successful in a very rewarding profession that I've enjoyed for the last 18 years.
Yeah, I love that. I also like asking as we look to the future of chambers of commerce, how do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Challenging, younger business leaders, entrepreneurs aren't joiners as other generations have been. So you've got to work harder to get people into your community, your fold, and get them to be investors. Secondly, on the political front, we've never been more divided. We can't even debate topics anymore. Either you're in or you're out, or you're pro or you're con. So chambers are going to have to bring that business voice into the policy arena even more than they ever have. Use the trust that people still have in the corporate or business community to your favor. We've got to be in conversations that are probably more and more uncomfortable, but that's why we're there. We've got to make a difference on the policy side. And then lastly, just talent like everybody else, finding good people to do what we all need to do because you don't go to chamber school necessarily. We hire people who have a skill set and maybe a good experience or two, and we turn them into chamber professionals. Those are the 3 things that I'm watching right now that give us challenge every day is just, how do we stay focused to what we can control, but also influence sometimes what we can't control while we find a different.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I wanted to give you an opportunity, Brian, to share any contact information for listeners out there who may want to reach out and connect or learn more about your strategic plan or about RVA Rising and really sharpening that focus. Where would you point them and what would be the best way for them to connect?
Well, chamberrva.com has all of our information from what we're doing. As most chambers, we have a really good website. It's got our contact information on it. But my email is brian.anderson@chamberrva.com. Reach out to me. Happy to help. Our team is very talented. We got a lot of good people that would be willing to help as well. So if you got a question, we're happy to help you.
Awesome. We'll make sure we get all that in our show notes for this episode. But this has
Wonderful.
been great having you on Chamber Chat with us today, Brian. I appreciate you setting aside the time and sharing your experiences and things that are making a difference in your community and really just helping to all those listeners out there to adjust their focus and make sure the work that they're doing makes an impact. So thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing, Brandon. This is a wonderful way to help all of us be better. So thank you for the work you're doing.
If you are a chamber professional, be sure to subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast on your favorite podcast app or now on YouTube, so you never miss a new episode. New episodes are released each week and delivered right to you. If you're finding value in the podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show. And most importantly, share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues in the industry so we can continue to grow and strengthen the chamber community together.
This episode is brought to you by Riverside. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast for your chamber or your business, one of the biggest challenges is recording high-quality audio and video, especially when you and your guest aren't in the same room. Riverside is the platform I use to record every episode of the show. It gives you studio-quality audio and video right from your browser, automatically backs up your files, and even creates clips you can use on social media. It's designed to make podcasting simple and professional without the headaches. If you're ready to launch your podcast or upgrade your recordings, head over to chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside to get started today. Again, that's chamberchatpodcast.com/riverside, the same tool I trust to bring you these conversations every week.